From the land of 10,000 lakes and just as many heartaches, welcome to the 301 Show. We're here to celebrate, commiserate, and maybe, just maybe, see a Minnesota team win it all. Whether you're dreaming of a Vikings Super Bowl, reliving the glory days of the Twins, or still recovering from the Timberwolves roller coaster, we've got you covered. This is the 301 Show, where the North remembers and the passion never fades.
Yes, welcome into episode 31 of the 301 Show. Got a great one on tap for you today. The couple of segments before we get to the final one is going to be a bit shorter, as most of the teams are still in their off season. But there is one very busy team over the last week and a half. So we will get deep dive in on the Twins trade deadline this year and what it means going forward from here, the rest of 2025 and beyond. Let's get into it. All right, now into the Rinkside Rundown with the Wild and the Frost. Again, not really a ton happening on either front here, although the Frost signed their third-round pick, Anna Segedy. She was the third-round pick, 22nd overall in the draft. They agreed to terms on a 2-year deal through the 2026-27 season, and it is a standard player agreement, which in the PWHL, now that it's just starting out, they have these standard player agreements. They can have every player is making the same amount, except for a couple on the team are making more, but most of them are making this standard player agreement. And as the league grows, they'll be able to make more money. Just the first couple years, they limit it just so the league can actually take off in the first place. On the Wild front, the only bit of news here is a Kirill Kaprizov contract update, and this is just a projected contract update from NHL insider Frank Saravelli. He is projecting that Kirill will get 8 years, $120 million, which that contract is $15 million average annual value, and that would eclipse Leon Draisaitl as the highest paid player in NHL history. Now, if Kirill signs this contract soon here, that could very well be upended then by Connor McDavid getting more than that. So, Kirill, again, if that deal is true, who knows how long that title will be held by Kirill as the highest paid player in NHL history. But in terms of the actual numbers here for Kaprizov, it's a lot. It is a lot of money. When the NHL has the lowest salary cap in the 4 major sports leagues, but Kirill Kaprizov to me is absolutely worth it. Yes, he has had injury issues the last couple of years, but he has been the absolute lifeblood of this team since he came into the league in 2020, in the COVID-shortened 2020 season, or 2021 season, I believe. He has been this team, like the cornerstone of this team for the 5 years he's been in the league. The absolute cornerstone. This team, in my mind, in my eyes, does not even sniff the playoffs if Kirill Kaprizov is not on this roster. I mean, we saw it last year with the couple of months he was hurt. Now, granted, Gustafsson went down for a week during that time frame, and they had some other injuries during that time frame. But you can't tell me that this team, even with everybody else healthy, is a playoff team without Kirill Kaprizov. It's not. It's straight up is not. I'm a Wild fan. I'm a diehard Wild fan. I will still tune in to every single game. I still want them to win. I want them to go 82-0-0 every single year. 164-point season every single year by this team. That's what I want. I want them to go 16-0 in the playoffs. But obviously that's never going to happen. They're never even going to come close to that. At least with the roster that is currently constructed without number 97 on under contract. So if Kirill Kaprizov wants 8 years at $120 million, $15 million AAV, take that deal immediately. You have to. You absolutely have to if you want a chance to compete. I don't care that takes him up to age 36 or whatever it is. I don't care about that. First of all, the salary cap should be going up, like way up, by the time this contract is over. So the percentage of the salary cap that this takes up goes down if it's $15 million every single year. But this team is screwed without Kirill Kaprizov. Absolutely screwed. And this team cannot actually compete here without Kirill Kaprizov under roster or on their roster. It's sad. It's absolutely sad. But it's the truth at this point. It's the absolute truth. Again, I just said this too. We saw this team without Kirill Kaprizov for 2 months this past year, or 3 months, or whatever it was. They didn't look good. They didn't. They really didn't. But that's what this team is going to be if you can't sign Kirill. Give him what he wants at this point. Now, there is a rule in the NHL. You can't give him over 20% of a team's salary cap. So you can't whatever that 20% is in a year, you can't give him more than that. But you can give him 20%, and I would give him as much as you can at this point. And I don't know. This team is not structured to play well without number 97 on the team. They don't have the pieces otherwise. For years, this team's saying was, we are the deepest team in the NHL. And do you need depth? Yeah, absolutely. But you need that superstar to begin with. Look at any team that's won the Stanley Cup. Every single team has at least one superstar. Look at the Florida Panthers. They got Bob in net. I think he's still a superstar. I think Kachuk's a superstar. You go back before that, the Colorado Avalanche, the Vegas Golden Knights. The Vegas Golden Knights had Jack Eichel and Mark Stone. Colorado Avalanche the year before that, they got an entire line plus a defenseman of superstars. Cale Makar, Nathan McKinnon, Mikko Rantanen, and Gabe Landeskog. They're all superstars. Go back before that, the Tampa Bay Lightning. Andrei Vasilevsky in net. They got Victor Hedman on the back end of their number one defenseman. You got Nikita Kucherov, who continues to lead the league in scoring, or is at least battling for that league lead in scoring every single year. Superstars with depth win you championships. So you absolutely need Kirill Kaprizov, who was, in my mind, going to be an MVP Hart Trophy finalist at minimum if he had stayed healthy the entire season. He would have been up for that award this past season. Now, on Kirill's part, like we talked about, in episode 30, what has the Wild done to prove that they are going to take another step in that right direction of actually competing for a Stanley Cup? So I can see his hesitancy to sign an extension. I completely understand that from Kirill's perspective. I don't think they've shown him nearly enough to warrant this type signing this term with the Wild. I hope he does. I hope he does. But I completely understand if he doesn't because the talent's not there. I completely understand. So at this point, is he going to sign a deal before the start of the season? I'm not going to be surprised either way. I honestly have no idea if the answer is yes or no, but I'm not going to be surprised either way. So it's just frustrating. The fact that they haven't put a team together that makes him want to stay in 5 years, they haven't done that, is frustrating. So, again, little rant, but not much news happening here in the Rinkside Rundown. Although we are 10 minutes into this segment as is. So let's move on to predictions. Again, I had 0 come off the board. That percentage stays at 30%. We move over to 3 coming on the board. Again, these won't come off for a while. First prediction is that Kirill Kaprizov scores the first goal of the 25-26 regular season for the Wild. Taylor Heisey scores the first regular season goal of the 25-26 regular season for the Frost. And then Marco Rossi will score in the playoffs for the Wild. So this is a 2-parter. The first one is that the Wild will make the playoffs, and second, I guess a 3-parter. Wild make the playoffs. Rossi is actually still on the team in the playoffs. He's not under contract right now, so he needs to sign a contract and not be traded. So he will be on the team for the Wild in the playoffs. And 3, he will actually score a goal, which I think if the first 2 come true, Rossi is almost certainly going to score a goal. All right, moving on now to the Wolves' Den. Let's start with the Lynx. We'll go to a positive note here. The Lynx are 24-5 on the year. Absolutely fantastic. They are running away, at least with the regular season in the WNBA. They're number 1 in the league. They have 87.2 points for per game, 40.7 field goal percentage, and 36.7 shooting percentage from 3. All 3 of those are number 1 in the WNBA. And the free throw percentage is 6th, which is right at the middle of the pack at 78.4. Rebounds per game is 34.7, which is 5th. Blocks per game is, again, back up at number 1. Them and the Wolves, both target center teams, very good defensively. Turnover differential per game, minus 2.1. Again, this is the one thing that has been a struggle for them all year this year. That is 11th in the WNBA out of 13 teams. So that is the number 1 problem for them for this season. So they are turning the ball over 2.1 more times than they are taking the ball away from their opponent. Points against per game. Number 1 in the league, 75.4. That is just under a 12-point differential in their points for per game and the points again. So on average, they're winning every game by just under 12 points. Field goal against percent is 41.5. That is second. 3-point shooting percentage against is 31.0%, which is number 1. Rebounds against per game, 33.9, which is 5th in the WNBA. Blocks against per game is 2.7, which is tied for 1st. So again, the turnover differential per game being 11th, that there was only one other stat that's not a top 5 stat of the ones I just read off, and that is the free throw percentage, and that is 6th. So turnover differential is, again, the thing they need to work on most. And any athlete, any sport knows this. Even if you are the best player in the league, there is always room to get better. And athlete, no matter what you're doing, no matter what it is that you're doing, whether it's talking into a microphone, doing a sports podcast, like whatever it is, there is always room to improve. But that being said, that one glaring issue being so bad, everything else offsets it because everything else is so good. And they are still the best team in the WNBA. Record-wise, all of these stats together-wise, like all of them together make them the best team in the WNBA. So, yeah, it's absolutely fantastic. They are continuing to dominate as we take a look back here on their last 4 games. They went 3-1. They beat the Las Vegas Aces 109-78 at home. They beat the New York Liberty at home 100-93, and then they beat the Las Vegas Aces again on the road. Again, this might be the most dominant win that they have had this year. They beat the Las Vegas Aces in Vegas 111-58. So they go into an opponent's arena and almost double their score. They won 111-58. This game was never a question on who was going to win this game. They did lose at home, though, to the Atlanta Dream 90-86. But I did the math on this, and they have 5 losses this year. Again, they're 24-5. In their 5 losses, their the combined, their margin of defeat is -32 in 5 games. They beat the Las Vegas Aces by 50. Over 50. So they are absolutely tearing up the WNBA right now. They play 3 more games again here this week. They play the Seattle Storm on Tuesday, August 5th in Seattle. It's a 9 p.m. game, West Coast late start game. They play at home against the Washington Mystics on Friday, August 8th at 6:30. And then they go to the New York Liberty on Sunday the 10th, and they play at 11:30 in the morning. So, yeah, the Lynx, again, continuing to tear up the WNBA and almost make a mockery of the rest of the teams with how well they are playing. Over at the Timberwolves, they are signing guard Johnny Uzang. He's a depth starting. He's only played in 102 games. He's averaging 7.9 points in 18.4 minutes. So, again, just a depth guard signing at this point. Who knows if he'll actually make the Timberwolves roster. He'll be probably one of those two-way guys. And probably more of like a Luka Garza replacement than anything else. So, that is basically it for the Wolves Den, the Timberwolves, and the Lynx. Not much more else to talk about. Didn't have anything come off the board this week. We will have at least one thing come off the board next week. But as for the predictions overall, sitting at 29%. Going on here to the 3 coming on the board. Nafisa Collier will win the WNBA regular season MVP and the finals MVP. The Timberwolves will win their 40th game before losing their 20th in the 25-26 season, and the Lynx will win their next 3 games this upcoming week. Now moving on to the Nordic Report here. The preseason starts on Saturday. Vikings play their first preseason game again on Saturday, US Bank Stadium, Saturday, August 9th at 3 p.m. It can also be seen on the NFL Network, I believe on the local Fox channel too. And in years past, the 3 preseason games, it's local Fox channel gets the Paul Allen simulcast, so you'll be able to hear the Paul Allen radio call on Fox 9. So next week we'll do a because the next 2 weeks are leading into 2 more preseason games, which we'll do a quick review of preseason week 1 next week. We'll do preview of week 2 next week, and then do the same thing with weeks 2 and 3 the week after that, and there's a bye week. So we will do best case scenario for the Vikings next week, and worst case scenario for the Vikings on schedule predictions the week after that. So going into week 2, we'll do best case scenario, into week 3, worst case scenario, and then in that bye week, going into week 1 of the playoffs, we'll do my official final predictions and see how close that one comes to actually being true. But do have a couple pieces of news here. First one is just that Jared Allen was inducted into the Hall of Fame. We'll link his Hall of Fame speech down in the comments. There were some absolutely fantastic moments from that speech. So again, we'll link that in the description down below. It's 15 minutes long. Please go watch it if you haven't. So that's again a great great one to go watch after you're done watching this maybe. Then the big piece of news is that Christian Darrisaw was seen getting reps, at least some reps, with the first team after his knee injury last year that led the team to trade for Cam Robinson. So he looks like he is on track to be getting back earlier than they expected. And he could be ready to go for week 1 against the Chicago Bears. So that is, again, absolutely fantastic news. That O-line completely revamped. They need Darrisaw on that left tackle protecting McCarthy's blind side there. So that would be, huge help for first-year starter. Hasn't taken a single snap of regular season football. Would be fantastic for him to get some extra protection there on the offensive line. So, again, only a few minutes here. Probably going to be the shortest segment of the week. In fact, will be the shortest segment of the week because we are already on to predictions. That's basically all I have for the Vikings. We'll have more next week when there actually is game stuff to go over and stuff like that. So, as for predictions, didn't have any come off the board again. We will have 3 come off the board next week. But as for now, my percentage on that one is 36%. As for the predictions going on the board, J.J. McCarthy is projected to at least 1 or 2 drives. So I'm going to say that he leads a scoring drive against the Texans, and that is a Viking scoring drive. If he throws a pick 6 or something like that, that does not count. It will be the Vikings will be getting points on a J.J. McCarthy drive against the Texans on Saturday. They will also score 30-plus points on Saturday against the Texans. And then the Vikings will win against Houston at US Bank Stadium. All right, moving on to the final team segment here of this episode 31. This is going to be probably the longest segment of the day. It is the Target Field Talkers. The Twins are, we'll go over these rankings here pretty quickly because I think we all know what we're here to talk about in this segment. The Twins are 51 and 59. They are 8 games under 500. They are 4th place in the AL Central. They are 9th in the AL wildcard race. As for the hitting rankings, they are 241. That's 23rd in the league. 312 on base percentage. That is tied for 20th. Slugging percentage is 396 at 15th. On base plus slugging is 708, which is tied for 19th. Runs scored is 462, which is 23rd. Home runs, they are 13th, which is at 13th at 126. Walks 25th at 329. Strikeouts 925 at 14th, and stolen bases are tied for 24th at 56. I don't even care to analyze these fully, and I'll have some notes on some of the looking back over the last couple games and stuff. I'll that'll be brought up. Some of those things will be brought up, but I don't really care about the stats right now. If I'm being fully transparent, pitching and fielding rankings, 22nd at 428 for the ERA. The WHIP, which is again WHIP stands for walks plus hits per innings pitched, which is basically just how many base runners are the fault of the pitcher. So walks, hit by pitches, hits, and then that is per innings pitched. So that is a 1.27, which is tied for, or not tied for, that is just 15th. Strikeouts are tied for 14th at 940. Walks, again, first place somehow at 289. They're just not walking a lot of batters. Errors, they're at 52, which is tied for 11th, which is then fielding percentage is tied for 13th at 986. It's going to be tough to fully change that fielding percentage too much because there's just so many opportunities at this point. They are going to probably finish right around that tied for 13th mark at the end of the season. If we look back, they've had 3 series. They've played 9 games since we last spoke. They have 3 wins and 6 losses in those 9 games. They beat the Nationals in the first game of that series at home. Last week they won, or 2 weeks ago now, the end of the 2 weeks ago, they won that one. First game 1-0. They lost games 2 and 3 on Saturday and Sunday, 9-3 and 7-2 in that. So they got outscored 16-6 against the Washington Nationals. So not a good look for this Twins team. They win game 1 against the Red Sox after a 90-minute rain delay, or I think it was 90. It was something like that. It was a significantly long rain delay in the bottom of the 9th inning. They win 5-4 in walk-off fashion in the bottom of the 9th, and then they proceed to lose game 2 8-5, and then they lose game 3 13-1, which I do want to get into in just a second. In the 9th inning, the score was 8-1. The Red Sox were winning 8-1 in the top of the 9th inning, and Griffin Jax was put in to the game. The score was 8-1, and he faced 3 batters. All 3 of them got on. Red Sox had scored 1 run at this point. A couple of them were on. Jax threw 12 pitches. Don't really know why he was out there at that point. But then he got pulled, and they put in Cody Clemens, the second baseman. And he proceeded to get absolutely shelled and let up a couple more runs, 2 of which the 2 runners that were on were officially charged to Jack. So he let up 3 runs on 0 outs in that game. And yeah, not a great performance by Griffin Jax, but this is where the in my notes here about this series against the Red Sox, I wrote game 3 debacle. So this is where the debacle really comes in. Obviously, why is Griffin Jax out there in an 8-1 game in the 9th inning? That seems like a very serious managerial mistake. Now, he was also mad because the previous week he lost the game against the Dodgers, and he did not agree with the call to intentionally walk Shohei Ohtani in the 9th inning, which I can understand, but at the same time, it's Shohei Ohtani, and he is very capable of hitting a home run and losing you the game right there. I understand pitchers don't want to just put base runners on like that, but then Jax unintentionally walked the next batter on 4 straight pitches. And I understand he's mad about the intentional walk, and he didn't do anything, or he just couldn't get focused after that. And then this happens, and he's even more mad, and he seems to be very mad at the Twins at this point. And he and Correa go to talk to Rocco together after the game, which I don't know why Correa's there. It seems like this clubhouse is just kind of unbearable at this point, and they're all mad. And to be fair, though, it doesn't seem like they are mad at each other. It seems like they are more mad at the coaches and the management at this point. So they go and talk to Rocco after the game. It clearly does not go well. And they are, just going at it. From the reports I heard was there was a lot of intense emotions in that Rocco's office after that game. They then have a day off on Thursday, which we'll get to that day off on Thursday in just a second here, because that was a big. They had a day off from games, but the front office did not have a day off that day. They then traveled to Cleveland to take on the Guardians in a divisional series matchup. They lost game 1 3-2 on a walk-off in the 10th. They lost game 2 5-4 in 9. That one was only 9 innings, but then they win game 3 somehow. They almost blew that. They were up 4-0 in the first. They almost blew a 4-0 lead. So that day off on Thursday was massive because it was trade deadline day. And within 48 hours, I just want to go over this really quick. Within 48 hours, these are the moves they made. Twins trade Chris Paddock and Randy Dobnak to Detroit for Enrique Jimenez. That trade, fantastic trade. I love that trade. Enrique Jimenez was one of the best catching prospects for the Tigers. Love that trade. Did not think you were going to get that much for Chris Paddock, because again, the Twins fans and Minnesota fans in general love to get attached to specific players. Chris Paddock was a low-end starting pitcher that was also very, very streaky. He'd have a good couple of starts in a row, but be kind of bad after that, before and after that. So the fact that they got this guy, he's 19 years old, he's in single A at Fort Myers, he can play catcher and first base. Again, he's a top 10 prospect for Detroit. Fantastic move for the Twins. They then traded Johan Duran to the Philadelphia Phillies for catching prospect Eduardo Tait. I don't know exactly how to pronounce his last name, Tait, Tait, I think, and right-handed pitcher Mick Abel, which again is more. I wasn't super thrilled by the return on that one at first, and the more I looked at it, though, I looked into we'll call him ET. The more I looked into ET, this dude looks like a could be a stud here. He's 18 years old at high A. There's two different single A teams. One is it's low A and high A. Low A is Fort Myers, high A is Cedar Rapids. He is 18 years old at high A Cedar Rapids. There'll be guys coming in at 22, 23 years old at high A or low A, one of the two single A teams. This kid is 18 and he's already moved up to high A Cedar Rapids. This kid could very well be a stud here in Minnesota. So look, like this again. This trade I am not mad at all. Again, it hurts to lose Durant, but I'm not in a vacuum. I'm not mad about this at all right now. Like, yes, you give up years of team control on Durant. I don't understand fully that part of it, but this trade, I'm not mad about at all. Mick Abel has pitched a couple games in the major leagues. He looks like he is more MLB ready. He doesn't have highs of a ceiling as ET does, but he's looks like a solid, he's not going to be your super. The big piece back on this one was ET. But the next one, they trade Harrison Bader to Philly for two players, a right-handed pitcher, Jeremy Villiora, and outfielder Henry Mendez. And then sorry, I'm trying to fully read my notes here. So they, trade Bader to Philly for Jeremy Villiora and Henry Mendez, outfielder and a right-handed pitcher. And then this is where I started getting confused. The Twins trade Griffin Jacks to Tampa Bay for right-handed pitcher Taj Brantley. I didn't fully understand trading both Griffin Jacks and Johan Duran. I didn't really. I don't know much about. I didn't do a ton of research about Taj Bradley, but that one didn't make a ton of sense. But there were some rumors swirling that they were going to trade one, if not both of those two. And then the kind of big trade came down. The one that had run up some speculation here in the last couple days. The Twins traded Carlos Correa and cash to Houston for Matt Mikulsic. And it seemed, so again, right here, this trade, there's a couple different ways to look at this. One, I am not mad at the fact that they traded Carlos Correa for the sole reason of one, Brooks Lee needs to get playing time at shortstop. If you look at his splits between when he's playing at short versus when he's playing at second or third base, his hitting statistics are way better when he's playing at shortstop. And I think it comes down to a comfort thing. I think he is more comfortable when he is playing at shortstop, and he doesn't have to worry about defense, and he can just freely approach the plate, more freely than that. So I think freeing up shortstop is a good thing for Brooks Lee, because you can get Brooks Lee in there and have him playing every day at shortstop. And then the second way you can look at this positively is Carlos Correa, his ankle or his foot or whatever it is a ticking time bomb at this point. It is. He's not going to, there's a reason why both the Mets and the Giants said no on their 10-year deal after they had a physical. He had, in principle, signed a deal with both of those teams pending a physical. And after the physical, the team said, no, we're actually going to take that offer back. Twice. That happened twice in the same offseason. And then he came back to the Twins. He had signed with the Twins on a 3-year deal with a player option after the first year and a player option after the second year. He could opt out after each year on that initial contract. So Correa opted out because he basically just wanted a 1-year deal with the Twins, but could get a 3-year deal and get more money if for some reason he didn't perform that well. So he decided, I'll take the he said, I performed pretty well. I'm going to take the opt out and go hit free agency. And he had 10-year deals at like $30 million per year. And both teams said no. Both teams said, no, we think this foot ankle thing is going to be too much too much risk to take on. Sorry about that. I just had a tickle in my throat and had to cough and get some water. But we were talking about Carlos Correa and how two teams passed on him. So the Twins, again, I don't think the Twins are because of the ankle and the foot issues. I think it is good that they got out of that contract with a couple years left because it clearly was not working there. So now there's two different things here that are on the negative side of this trade, or of the whole Carlos Correa. One's on the Carlos Correa side of the trade, and then the other one is just of the Carlos Correa situation. The first negative thing is, again, that foot issue. Why did the Twins decide to sign him back in the first place? There's two reasons that they decided to bring him back. Even after both the Giants and the Mets said, no, we're good. We're going to pass on this after the physical. There's two reasons that I see in my mind. One, the doctors are bad. The doctors did not catch. Actually, there's three things. One, the doctors did not catch that the same things in the physical that the Giants and Mets did. Secondly, they did not think it would be an issue until after year 6, because I think it was 5 or 6 year deal. So they thought we can get 5 or 6 good years out of Carlos Correa. Or 3, they voiced that to the front office, and the front office did not care. The front office might not have cared because they just wanted to make a splash in free agency. Now, of those 3, there's a reason, and we'll get to it after we go through the rest of it. Well, actually, no, we'll get to it now because we're on Carlos Correa now. Actually, no, we'll do it at the end because it proves my point of something else here. But those are the only 3 options in my mind of why they went out and signed Correa. So the second negative thing is I don't think they got back enough. Like, they were clearly just trying to dump Carlos Correa and try to get out of some of his salary. They gave $30 million in cash to Houston, which basically means they'll be paying of the rest of his contract, $30 million of it over the rest of the term. So $30 million over 2.5 years. And they'll be, divide 35 by 2.5 or 30 by 2.5, and that's what they're paying over the course of the rest of the contract. That trade went down. They then traded Danny Coulomb to Texas for left-handed pitcher Garrett Horn, which again, in and of itself, is not a bad trade. Danny Coulomb was one of those guys that I completely expected to go because he was on a 1-year deal. He was a rental player. And this season was dead anyway, so might as well go get something for him before he just walks in free agency. And the next trade that went down was shortstop utility player Willie Castro was traded to the Chicago Cubs for right-handed pitcher Sam Armstrong and Ryan Gallagher. And again, Willie Castro being traded is not a surprise to me. Not because of the team control, but because he just, again, seemed to be struggling the last year and a half. I guess a year since the middle of last year. Before the All-Star break last year, he was the best player on the Twins. After the All-Star break, he maybe should have been sent down to AAA. And he just has not lived up to that before the All-Star break last year production. And I feel like that is another thing that Twins fans are holding on to, is they still view him as that type of player when he's not. He's just objectively not that type of player. So, yeah, he got traded for 2 right-handed pitchers. And he, yeah, we'll probably get some sort of video tribute when he comes back here. Another one that they traded was Brock Stewart, who again was kind of being talked about a little bit, but I was more expecting at least 2 of the other 3 between Jax, Duran, and Coulomb to be traded over Brock Stewart. But he was traded to the Dodgers for center fielder James Outman, who has struggled at the major league level. But he is now brought in to play center field for the Twins after the Buxton is hurt, and Harrison Bader got traded out. And then the final trade they made, which is the one that shocked me, this is the one I am the most mad about, because this one makes absolutely zero sense. This one makes the least amount of sense out of any of them. They traded first baseman Ty France, which again, that part kind of makes sense. He's a free agent after this year. He is probably not going to be coming back. He was probably going to be DFA'd at some point here to make room for like a Luke Keyshaw coming back or someone like that. But they also traded in that same package relief pitcher Louis Varland. That makes zero sense to me. I can, probably don't fully agree with it, but with trading Jax and Duran, but I can see where you're coming from on that. I can somewhat get behind it because it kind of makes sense. Louis Varland makes zero sense at all. He was cheap. He was under team control for, at least 2 or 3 more years. And he was good. He was very good. He's from Minnesota too. Not that should matter, fully, but he's from Minnesota. He should have been the guy that came in and was your closer after you traded Duran and Jax. This makes zero sense to me why you would trade away Louis Varland. It does. It makes zero sense. This to me says that this front office doesn't actually know what they're doing. It doesn't. I don't know what this front office is doing, unless they are being pressured somehow from the front office, which is there's more evidence to that, and we'll get to that in just a second, than just not, just people saying, oh, it has to do this. There's more evidence than you would think. But they trade Louis Varland and Ty France to the Toronto Blue Jays for left fielder Alan Rodin and left-handed pitcher Kendry Rojas. So that was the final trade they made. They traded 10 or 11 players in total, and they they traded 10 players on their 26-man roster. They traded 11 of them, including when you include Randy Dobnak, in a 48-hour span. That's 40% of the 26-man roster. 10 out of 26. 40%. And again, some of them make a lot of sense to me why they would trade them. They really do. And then there's a couple that don't fully make sense for what they get back from them. And then there's one where I'm like, why would you ever trade this guy? That being Louis Varland. I don't know why they traded Louis Varland. I really don't. But we'll go over some other news here that still relates to this. So Bob Nightingale, reporter, MLB insider reporter, he came out with a report here, and he said that he got some inside information that the Houston Astros owner, Jim Crane, was golfing with Hall of Famer Joe Mauer when they had the Hall of Fame ceremony in Cooperstown, New York last weekend. A couple more players are being inducted into the Baseball Hall of Fame. And he mentioned that they might try to pursue all-star shortstop Carlos Correa. And because the Twins were so deep in debt, which is, again, allegedly $440 million. And because of that, because Carlos Correa makes so much money too, they would have no choice but to just dump him off. And he wanted to see if that could be done with them just dumping off players. And so when he returned home, he talked to the Astros general manager. His name's Dana Brown. And Dana Brown called the Falvey and asked if they'd be willing to trade Correa. Derek Falvey is the president of baseball operations for the Twins. And he asked about a Correa trade. And he said Correa trade and one of the outfielders. Send an outfielder and Correa to the Astros. And he asked about if they could pick up 50 of the remaining $103 million on Correa's contract. Apparently, Falvey just laughed it off and hung up. Again, apparently. This again, report just goes on to say that they, excuse me one second. Excuse me, sorry. This goes on to say that they owners then got to talking and basically forced a trade through at some some sort of trade through, and that's where we got that deal we did. So the owners are going over the head of the president of baseball operations and going to force a trade through. And again, why do you even hire Derek Falvey at that point when that's what his job description is? His job description is president of baseball operations. He's also the president of business operations, which I think is a little bit too much for him to handle at one point here, or at one time here. But if we're talking just president of baseball operations, he is here to make these types of trades and make this team better. That I don't understand why owner, and I mean I do. It's their money. They're the ones paying for all of this, and the poll ads are clearly trying to sell this team, which is another reason why I think they are trying to sell off as many contracts as possible. But it doesn't make sense to me why they can't just let the front office do its job. Like it doesn't make sense. So speaking of the sale, Ben Homey of Front Office Sports has basically said that the Twins sale is imminent at this point and is going to happen. It's just the debt that needs to be worked around here. But I've got a couple of things here to address some of the Twins fan base. First of all, the Twins fans that are saying this trade deadline destroyed the Twins, no, it didn't. No, it didn't. What are you talking about? Do you know what destroyed the Twins? I'm not saying the Twins aren't destroyed, but this isn't what destroyed the Twins. What destroyed the Twins was in November of 2023, like 1 month after the Twins broke their playoff losing streak, the Pohlads came out and said, we're going to slash payroll. That killed the Twins. That right there, that mindset and that philosophy, that is what killed the Twins. Not this offseason, or not this trade deadline, excuse me. 2023 offseason killed the Twins. Like the Twins had a sellout. And again, the other thing too here, we can compare it to I was at the Red Sox. I was out in Boston this weekend. I went to a Red Sox game. They were playing the Astros. I got to see Correa play at a home run. Fenway Park only holds 37,000 fans. There were 36,000 fans at that game. There was "Let's Go Red Sox" chants going the entire game. That stadium was packed from first pitch to final pitch. The Boston loves the Red Sox. Boston absolutely loves the Red Sox. And they should. They've got 4 championships since 2004. In that same time that the Twins lost 18 straight playoff games, the Red Sox won 4 championships. That could be the Twins. Like, if the owners cared about the Twins, that could seriously be. I mean, look at the Timberwolves. When you get owners that actually care about the team, they're selling out the crowd, the stadium every single night, and they're actually succeeding. That's what happens when you get owners that actually love the team and want to win. You know, you can argue about the way to win, but that's its own argument. I'd rather argue about the different approach, like what approach actually works to take to win, than if the ownership actually wants to win or not. Those are 2 completely different arguments, and one is a lot more, means a lot more to have because you're actually winning. And the Twins just aren't doing that. So they absolutely need new owners. They do. They need new owners. And again, this trade deadline, this trade deadline will say this. This is the quote of the trade deadline. This isn't the Twins' death. It's the nail in the coffin. This did not kill the Twins. It simply buried them. That's it. That's how you describe this trade deadline. Didn't kill them, just buried them. As for predictions, first of all, new format for the predictions coming off the board. This is the only segment we had stuff coming off the board, so I didn't mention it until now. I should say new format of the visuals for the ones coming off the board. The actual predictions, everything, those are saying the same. Let me know if you like this versus the other ones. So off the board here, have a bunch coming off the board. So first one, Brooks Lee, Royce Lewis will combine for less than 10 games in St. Paul. I thought they were going to be staying healthy this year. They did not. Royce Lewis by himself has 9. I think Brooks Lee has 3. So they are over double-digit games. Royce Lewis will play at least 50% of his games at second base. Even if he plays the rest of the team's games at second base, he will not get 50% of his games played. Pablo Lopez will win 20-plus games in 2025. That will not happen. Again, unless he plays 20 games in September and wins all 20 of them, he's not going to win 20 games this year. Twins drop at least 2 of 3 to the Dodgers or Red Sox and get swept by the other. They lost 2 of 3 to both. They did not get swept by either one. Joe Ryan is the only MLB player traded, or none are. He was not traded, and there were other MLB players traded. Twins let up 10-plus runs in at least one game against the Nationals. They did not. They let up 9 runs. They got 1 run shy of this one being correct. And then Twins get shut out in the next week. They threw a shutout in the last week, and they scored 1 run once, so they almost got shut out. But over the next 6 games, which was the Nationals and the Red Sox series, they will go 500 or worse. They went 2-4, so they went 33%. That is now 12 correct out of 50 total predictions for 24%. And I stopped recording without realizing it. I didn't make 3 new predictions here for Target Field Talkers, so we will make those predictions. The Twins will make the playoffs in 2026. Royce Lewis hits at least 1 home run against the Yankees, which they play here this upcoming week. And the Twins will finish in 4th place in the AL Central in 2025. All right, moving on now to the final segment here of episode 31. Power rankings episode. Again, leave down in the comments what you want to see me rank next. Today, we've got the top 10 logos in Minnesota sports history. I kept this one to college and professional logos, so no high school logos or anything like that. So for me, I didn't want to have to deal with any potential copyright stuff, so I'll leave history logo of all the teams I mentioned down in the description if you want to go check out and see what these logos look like. But all of them too are the primary logo for these teams, and I've got when they used them listed next to them on my graphic here. So we'll talk about them and when they are. And again, if you want to go see them, you can. I'll link them down in the description down below. So coming in at number 10 here, we've got the Gophers' current M logo. It's just the block M logo. Again, I'm not a huge fan of just the letter logos that are only letters. I'm not a huge fan of the letter logos. So the Gophers come in at number 10 here for me. Number 9, it's the Lynx 2011 to 2017 logo. For the Lynx, I think that's the logo that looks the best from the ones that they've used throughout their history. This is, I believe, their 26th year in the WNBA. So I think the 2011 to 2017 one is the best one. Also helps that they won all their championships with that logo. Maybe should hint, hint, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, go back to that one. But yeah, the Lynx 2011 to 2017 logo is there. Number 8, we're going to a team that does not currently reside here anymore, and that would be the Minneapolis Lakers from 1947 to 1960. Again, just a classic old school logo. Number 7, we're going back to college. We've got the UMD Bulldogs current logo. It is the Bulldog head. Again, I was using the main logo, so this is the gray Bulldog head. Secondary logo is the yellow Bulldog. I think that one looks better, but we have to use the prime. I'm using just primary logos, so 7 is the Bulldogs. Probably would have been higher if it was the yellow head. Coming in at number 6 is another throwback logo. It is the Twins 1967 to 86 logo. It is the Minnie and Polly shaking hands over the Mississippi River with the words "Win Twins" on it. It's basically that statue they have out in center field right now at Target Field. just with, it says Win Twins, but it's just the state outline is blue instead of white. So I like the blue Mini and Pauly logo better. If moving on to number 5 here, it is the original logo from the Minnesota Timberwolves. It is the far superior Timberwolf head in a basketball logo. Very much a retro look. I personally don't love the ones they have now. I think this Timberwolf head in a basketball logo was far superior. At number 4 is the Vikings' current logo. Again, their logo hasn't really changed much over the last 60 years. They had their original logo was different, but then they had the current Viking head. So again, you can put any of they made some slight tweaks to it, so they technically have had different logos, but it's just the main Viking head that everyone knows and loves from the Vikings. Again, so number 3 again might be a little bit controversial after what I said about the Gophers logo, but they do a little bit more than just a letter. It is the North Stars 85 to 91 logo. It is the N with the star. I think because they added the star in there, and I like the color scheme better. I like the light green and yellow versus the maroon and yellow, or the maroon and gold. I like that color scheme better. I also like the star. The N is pointing to the star. So they do more than just a letter logo. So North Stars N logo is number 3. Number 2, sticking on the rink, we go to the current Wild logo, the Bearhead logo. Absolutely fantastic logo. Or I think, to me, it's either them or the Sharks have the 2 best logos in the NHL. So the Wild sit at number 2 for me. And number 1, again, I think the greatest logo in Minnesota sports history. It's the Timberwolves 96 to 2008 logo, where it's the wolf head staring straight on with the tree line, and the Timberwolves with all the spike, the pointy letters. It says Timberwolves underneath it. I think that is the greatest logo in Minnesota sports history. All right. Thank you again now for watching episode 31 of the 301 show. Drop a like and subscribe to the channel. Leave a comment down below. If you've made it this far, comment something about, I don't know, just comment your favorite ballpark in the, across the entire MLB. Comment your favorite ballpark and the, ballpark you want to visit the most that you haven't already. So, maybe they're the same one. But thank you for watching. Thank you for watching this long, too. It really helps me out. So, yeah, drop a like, subscribe, comment your favorite MLB Stadium, and we will see you in episode 32. Peace.